All right, so today we're kicking off a series called Questions Great Coaches Ask. All right, and the first edition, how can I be more efficient and effective during the limited times I have for installing plays? Right, this is something at the high school and the college level, we all deal with this. We only have so much time, right, to install things. How do we use it effectively? So from my perspective, when I'm up at the front of the room, I feel like I'm explaining things very clearly. I feel like I'm getting the key points across. I'm drawing it up on the board, and it just feels like no problems, right? Well, this is what my kids see. All right, if I'm just up at the board, I don't have any plans. I'm trying to just explain things the way I would explain anything randomly to someone else. So we want to be intentional. All right, when we show up for meetings, we want to be intentional. We want to use things that we can learn to be better teachers, better coaches. All right. So, Coach, what can I do about it? All right. So today we're just going to talk about one framework of how to think about learning. All right, and it's known as the VAK. All right, it's three things: visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. All right. So in this framework, there's three different types of learning styles. All right, not everyone is a mixture of the three. Okay, but using this framework, we can develop all of our teaching, our coaching resources to try to effectively coach all three of these modalities. All right, feel free to pause here and read. I'm going to move on to the next slide. All right, so first thing that we can do is there's an actual test called the VAK test, and it is completely free. All right, you can take it online or by hand. So the first thing I would do is have my kids, have my players take the test, have them score it themselves so that they know what their learning style is. All right, and this is up to you. For me, input their learning styles into an Excel sheet. It just depending on how much experience you have with Excel, it can be something that it's nice to have it on hand so you know what learning style your players are. All right. This will also help them moving forward to better understand the way that they learn. All right. And they can apply that for their study habits, for work, for school, for everything. All right. So for our visual learners, here's a few key concepts that I've learned over time that I believe in. All right. My visual learners, challenge them. Tell them we want them to sit in the front of the classroom. All right. I wouldn't make it mandatory. I wouldn't make a seating chart, but I would challenge them, say, hey, if you're a visual learner, where should we be sitting? We should be sitting in the front of the room. All right. Using visual aids. So with all the resources that we have now, it's if you're kind of coach who stands up at the front of the room and uses the marker board to explain things, that's fine. But I would just challenge you to find different ways to use engaging visual aids that can show what we're trying to teach. All right, so this is key. Moving around the room while you're talking. So if I'm standing in the same position talking, a lot of my visual learners, you're going to lose them after a very short period of time. They're going to disengage. So if I'm speaking, all I have to do sometimes is take 3 or 4 steps in the direction of my audience, or sometimes move to the other side of the room. Just little things like that. If I'm moving around, that can engage those visual learners, and I'm more likely to have their attention. All right. Giving them printouts, materials, digital versions to take home. I think that's key as well. Some people don't learn as well in a group environment. Some people have a hard time paying attention. So that's something that, giving them that opportunity to bring that home. I would also challenge them, take notes by hand. Ask them to draw things up. All right. Ask them to draw things up. Auditory. Have key points for each concept. Auditory learners, they like to have key words. So we kind of get to the point where I can ask them about a word or about a concept, and they'll be able to explain it. They'll be able to define it. They'll be able to recognize it when I say it, and eventually they'll be able to explain it to myself and their teammates. All right, and that's going to show that's serious learning. All right. So I'm a big believer for auditory. It's not just about them listening to me. I want to engage them in conversations and dialogue. I want to use questions. I want to use follow-ups. I want them talking to each other. I want them to answer questions with more questions that lead to other students being engaged. So if I know who my auditory learners are, I'm able to, during my install period, I can find ways to get them involved in these discussions, get them involved asking questions and dialogue. All right. Another key with this group, moving around the room while you're talking. Even for our auditory learners, a lot of us now, there's a lot of competition for our attention. So moving around the room, changing the trajectory of your voice by moving just a little bit. Sometimes things like that can be can re-engage people that we may have lost. All right. Another thing, have them read things out loud. So if you have, you give out a handout, have them read it out loud. Call on one of your auditory learners. All right. All right. Last one, kinesthetic learners. Give them an opportunity to stand up and provide examples. So say I want to do, I'm doing some sort of install for offensive line. Have your kinesthetic guys stand up and what does a down block look like? And have them step in the correct direction. Another thing is when we're teaching kinesthetic learners, I think it's really important that we want to get shoulder to shoulder with them. We want to be facing this, have the same orientation, that we're facing the same direction. All right. So I think they relate to us based on space and position. And so if we're next to them and we're showing them how we do it, I think there's a lot better chance that they're gonna understand what we're talking about. All right. So I like to have them, I like to confirm their understanding by having them teach it to me by moving through the process back to me. All right. And these are the kind of kids we need to be patient in the classroom setting. Not everybody's going to, you can't shove a square peg in a circle. It's just not going to work. So sometimes, it's going to have to come together on the field. So these are the kind of learners, and just in general, kids who struggle to pick up the material as fast. I like to partner them with kids who have high aptitude, kids who understand the concept. Partner them. All right. You don't have to explain to them exactly what you're doing, but partner them together. And essentially, the high aptitude kid can confirm and even remediate some of this understanding. And if you develop a relationship with the high aptitude kid, he can have an idea of what you're doing, and he can give you feedback. Hey, I don't think he understands this. And then you can move forward from there.